We all have gifts, talents, and abilities that we want to actualize in this world. But when we're married, it can be difficult to balance those gifts, talents, and abilities with our responsibilities.
So we invited our dear friends, Clint and Kelly Pulver, who both have an extensive career on stage and on screen, to share what it looks like to make that marriage really work. Join us today for an episode of Go and Be. Hello, and welcome to an all-new Go and Be. I am Michelle McCullough, hosting with Christy Gardner, and we have our guests with us today that we are so excited about, Clint and Kelly Pulver. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It's good to see you both.
We're really excited to have you here. Okay, so we, full disclosure, have been laughing a lot off camera.
Yes.
So here we go.
We gotta get
We're
the
bringing
giggles
you
out.
with us into the
Real
giggling.
life.
But we are excited to have you guys here because we see you and the marriage that you've created as really supportive. And so we're excited to jump into this topic of how do we support each other in a marriage situation. Kelly, you are an actor and you have a career that is booming and going and you're always working, and you are parents of two little girls. And Clint is a renowned speaker and author. You have a best-selling book on Amazon right now, #2 on the Amazon list. Darn that Chip Gaines. That's all we have to say.
Darn you, Chip Gaines.
But if you have to be second to Chip Gaines, I think it's
Not
okay.
too bad.
Not
Yeah,
too
not
bad.
too bad.
Not
We'll
too
take
bad. Yeah, so Clint's book just released, and you're both very, very busy. So tell me, is this something, this kind of a marriage where it's really supportive, something that you talked about before marriage or something that you figured out along the way?
Oh, I'm probably a little bit of both, I think.
We're still figuring it out. Yeah, for sure.
No, I remember when we were dating, we dated long distance for most of our relationship. I was living in LA and he was here in Utah. And so after we met and started dating, the big conversation was, does Clint sell his home and his business and come to LA, or do I stop what I'm doing in LA and relocate to Utah? So that was like probably our first big conversation on what does this look like to make sure that both of us get what we need out of what we're doing. And then honestly, we're just really figuring it out as we go because we have so many new adventures and challenges and trials that come up, and we just kind of have to take it day by day.
Yeah. I mean, it's the dynamic is interesting because we're both performers. You know, we both love to be on stage. We love to do our thing. I mean, she's incredibly talented. Her singing ability, her dancing ability, she lives for the stage, and she also is married to a husband that lives on a stage. And so you would think, and there has been a dynamic of, you know, I'm off, I'm performing, and she sees that, and she's home with two babies that are screaming, and there's a million other things she would rather be doing, and I'm off getting praises and glory and on an airplane, and I get a hotel room by myself, and I don't have to stay up all night with the kids. So there's that dynamic of, okay, how do we make this work? How do we keep the balance? How do we make it a win-win? How do we both stay happy and fulfilled, but also still support ourselves and provide? Like I provide for the family on a business side because that brings in income, and then Kelly's providing in the home and making sure that I can leave to go do that. So it's a constant awareness of being balanced in that. We have to constantly talk about it.
And it's hard, and
Sure.
I'm not good at it a lot. Like I get jealous. I get jealous of him. Like he said, he gets to go, in my mind, right? It's all perspective. He gets to go out and be on stage and be around people and do the thing that lights his soul on fire. And even though motherhood lights a part of my soul on fire, it's not my whole soul. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I feel bad being like, my whole soul's not lit on fire by my children.
No, we
You're
get
talking
you.
to the right people.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's hard. Like we also, like there are a lot of times where we have some pretty remarkable discussions about, you know, what needs to change and who's, you know, what perspective can we shift and have, you know, because I want to go out and do things too, and he wants to go out and do things, and
But
we're
there are a
just
few things
always
I love
working.
about what you said. Number one, you said, I provide in this way, and Kelly provides in this way. So not differentiating roles in a way that puts one beneath or above the other. It's a partnership. So I love that. I also love that you haven't quit acting. So where, yes, obviously being a mother is amazing and it fills us in so many ways, you are keeping the core parts of yourself, which if I could talk to my younger self who had little babies, that's what I would counsel her to do, which I didn't do. So I think that's really important.
Well, so let's talk about the logistics of that, though, because there's also times where that switches, right? She's off at a rehearsal and you're home with two kids. And so how do those conversations happen? Do you set specific boundaries? What do the logistics look like of making this work?
Yeah. So we plan a lot. We have to plan.
Yeah.
So we do a nightly planning session every night.
I love that.
For the next day.
For the next day. And we just, okay, what's the baseline? Like, where are we at? What am I doing? What are you doing? Who's got the kids? How can we switch? How can we change? And then we also look at the schedule, because a lot of my schedule is already set. I have an event, I have a podcast, I have something that already has been set up months ago. So that's in stone. And then we kind of go, okay, so where are some open areas that Kelly could go and do something that she wants? She could go on a drive, or we look at that whole week. We do a weekly planning session.
On the weekend, we do a weekly planning session, and then every night we have to circle back for the next day.
Yeah, and it's just making sure that, okay, Kel, you get time as well. You get time as well when you need it. So let's figure out where in the planning of our business and the things that we've already committed to, how can we make sure that you still have time to fill you up and to support you and to,
We have this kind of unspoken rule that if it was in the calendar, then they have dibs, right? So we have this shared Google Calendar, and we just are putting all of our stuff in. So when I get my schedules for rehearsals, I have to put it in. And if I don't put it in, then he doesn't know and he can schedule something. So we've had many times where something gets, double booked or put in, and it's like, well, I put it in the calendar first. So sorry. And that's just like the unspoken rule. And obviously there's give and take, right? If things come up or something needs to shift around, there's always room for that.
But what I'm hearing you say, though, is that there's a serious amount of intention. It doesn't happen by accident. You are significantly setting aside time every night to make sure that you're on the same page, and once a week. And so I think for any couple that's out there having some of these similar conversations, how can you communicate about it a little bit more and create conversations where you're both on the same page?
Yeah, and we have to get down to specifics. Like, I'll put something in the calendar, and then I'll say, but you have to remember, I need to get ready. Like, I have to put on my makeup, and I need to, it's 20 minutes away, so I need driving time, so we've had to really, really hone in on, the nitty-gritty of things, and same with, if he's going out, and then he's got to meet somebody here, you can't leave it up to chance.
Yeah, and you've created a system that works for you. And I think that's important, too, because if we don't create a system, we can't expect our expectations to be met. So communicating your expectations to each other and then creating a system that is fair and equitable for both people.
Yeah.
Well, and Kelly's been really good at reminding me, too, when to shut it off. Because as an entrepreneur, I could work forever, always.
He's always driven. I've never met anybody who has a vision and then can execute it as well as he can. And the flip side of that is that, just like he was saying, he's always going, always, and he can.
Yeah.
And that's just his personality. And I'm very much I need to take a bath and I need to stop doing things.
Yeah.
So that's a fun dynamic.
Yeah. So we've had to shut it off. There's the fast rule of okay, when we're in bed and we're getting ready for bed, there's no talk about work. There's no talk about what's going on. That's done. That's done. This is us time. We've watched a few little shows together. That's been fun. We just have to shut it off because we work together. Kelly's as much a part of the business as I am, and we can talk about it always. And I have to remember, like, yes, she's a business partner, but she's also my wife.
And your girlfriend.
And my girlfriend, right? Like, so there has to be boundaries. We have to learn when to shut it off. Because if not, then you're just a roommate and we talk about business. You know?
So I have a question. How do you advocate for your needs? So yes, you're going away, flying on a plane and staying in nice hotels and speaking to a lot of people, but it's also lonely.
Yeah,
you're
stressful.
away from
Busy.
your family, stressful.
Totally stressful.
Working, people demand a lot of you when you're on stage. It's depleting energetically.
And then you come home and your family's like, yay, here are
he's
the
here,
babies
here.
and
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And Kelly, on the other hand, being a mother to 2 babies so close together is all consuming and all encompassing physically, mentally, emotionally. So it can come across like needs are not being met from both. So how do you advocate not just for who gets time doing what where, but how your needs are met?
Go ahead.
Oh man, this is. I don't even know where to start.
Oh, God. We do it that well. Yeah.
Or don't you? Like, it would be really refreshing for me to hear, we don't really do this very well, or we had to really work on it in this way. Like, it doesn't help us to think that there's this ideal and it's not a challenge.
Yeah, I constantly fail at it. I
Me
constantly
too.
fail at
We're not.
Yeah.
We're not great at it yet. I think that we'll get there, but I mean, and Clint just launched his book yesterday. It published, and so he's been doing a really intense like pre-launch book campaign, which has been 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night, and I'm with babies all day long. And we have had many, many I
Huddles.
have had many meltdowns because in the situation that we're in, I don't think I know or I knew or know how to ask for what I need. Because he's always telling me, I can't read your mind. Like, what do you need? I cannot read your mind. And then I get mad that he can't read my mind. You know, it's just like this
oh, good. So you're normal.
spiral.
Yay, wonderful.
I don't know. So for me, honestly, like, I don't even know how to answer that question because I don't think I'm doing it great yet.
So let's talk about that for just a second, though, because I also, watching this and have been part of book launches and speaking and watch you guys do this from afar in social media, and you share a lot of your life on social media, which is fun to watch. But I mean, part of it is balancing your values versus current situations and also being able to look at the big picture, which is, I think, something that you both do really well, because while you can say that the last 6 months of putting a book together and launching it is really hard, you can also see the end of that, which helps you get there. And you can also see the purpose of that, which helps you get there. So how do you do, like, on those times where you know that there's no give, how do you preserve yourself even when it feels heavy or a lot?
I mean, for me, it's hard because, like, we live in this business that there's seasons. For us, there's been seasons. So I quit my job. I'm married. The day I quit my job was the day we went on our first date. Actually,
That's true.
Hi, I'm unemployed.
Yeah, what a
He
pickup line.
was,
She's
he
like,
was
"Oh,
working in the
gosh."
medical field.
Yeah.
And when I asked him, what do you do for work? He's like, nothing.
Nothing.
I'm quitting.
Yeah. So she's literally been with me since day one. And so there's been this, commitment of, like, it's going to be hard, it's going to take a lot, but it's going to be worth it. And we worked and worked and worked and worked, and the business had grown, and then COVID hit. And we had tried so hard to get to where we had a little bit of our lives back. I mean, it takes a lot to build a business in this industry. And COVID came out of the blue, knocked everything out, and so we literally felt like we started from square one. Yeah. So it was hard for me because I had this almost promise to her that we're gonna get through this, and then we got a management team, people were handling it, she could have more free time, I was able to be more present because I wasn't doing everything. We got to this point where it was flowing, and then bam, COVID hit, we started from square one, we're back in the hustle of chaos. Then we had a second baby, and then we got COVID, and then we decided to launch a book in the world. So it's just been one thing after the next, and so I think we were just talking about this, I think, last night, and we're like, we're finally back to where we were. The economy's coming back, or we can almost breathe, or the book is launched. So there's seasons, and so it's been hard for me. I promised her that we would get to that point, and so she's just been super patient as we've pushed through that. So it's been hard though. It's hard.
Yeah. One thing that Clint's really good at doing is reminding me of like the why. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we bringing kids into our family? Why are we launching a book? Why are we in this industry so Clint can go share this message? Like, what is the why? And I think being able to revisit that why and that purpose helps keep things into perspective when everything feels way out of control, right? Because you get to points where you're like, I'm done. I'm gonna quit. I'm out. Yeah. Not out. Not like I'm out of here.
Just
but
out,
like
on a trip to Sedona.
Just
Yes.
not like Sedona.
Yes, Sedona. Yes, exactly.
But Clint is constantly helping me revisit, like, okay, well, let's go back to the basics. Like, what is our goal, and like, what is our purpose, and is what we're doing right now, regardless of how easy or heavy it feels, is that propelling us forward to our purpose? And if so, great. What do we need to shift to stay on that path and be sane?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've learned too. Like, and I can't control her, and she can't control me. That's like one very quick lesson that we learned in marriage, right? And as business partners, because you want to say like, hey, let's get this email out. Hey, let's send this. Hey, did you do this? Hey, we need to do, like, it's this constant like back and forth as business partners. But there's you just have to realize too that like they're their own person, and you've got to be okay. And we've tried to make this happen in our business relationship, in our marriage, that if you don't want to, you don't have to. If you need to go do something, then do that. Like I've tried to always just make sure there's a choice. We always have a choice in all of this, and that has helped us to, first off, make sure that we're aligned and we're doing this for the right reasons. But if you don't want to, then let's talk about it, and that's okay. Like trying to create that space where if you don't want to work today, that's okay. If you need to go do something else, if I need to go take a walk, like that's okay. I don't know, just trying to make that as safe as possible so that we can talk. Because if you don't talk, then it just builds up pent-up energy and unmet expectations, and everybody's ticked at each other, and that goes nowhere. So trying to just keep it safe, I constantly am trying to be the person that she can come to if she's frustrated or if she's mad. Because if I lash out, or if I'm angry, or if I'm frustrated, or feel like she can't communicate that, then that's a lose-lose situation. So yeah, I'm trying to always remind myself to do that.
I love that. Well, and I think it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I don't think it ever, I wish it was, right? Life were so easy and there was this cookie cutter way to make it all work, but every relationship is different, every couple is different.
Yeah.
But I want you to talk about how you maintain your relationship as a couple. And we can also take this two ways. Like, how did you do that before when you were traveling all the time? How do you, like, whether that's at home or do you have date nights, how do you keep your relationship going as two very busy people with little kids?
Again, I think it just comes down to being intentional with our time. And so when we are doing our planning sessions, we try and see if there's a date time that we can, and often, honestly, there's a lot of times where we don't realize it until we get to that point where it's like, we don't spend any time together, and even though we're spending all of our time together,
right.
So it's just, I think, constantly being intentional with the time that you are spending together, right? For us, there's a time for working, and then there's a time to be with our kids, and then there's a time for us connecting and being together and having conversations that don't have to do with our kids and don't have to do with work, which is actually really hard to do. Once you have kids, you guys, everyone talks about it. We just talked about our kids, and now I get it. We just talk about our kids all the time. But just having that intentionality with our time. And again, we're not perfect at it by any means.
Yeah, it's hard. Just even the simple fact of like, we have to get a babysitter. No one's available. So we just put dates side to side, or it gets lost in the shuffle. But And it's hard too because we just came out of a season where we both committed to just jump in and be busy, and it's our relationship, our marriage. It strains it. It strains it during those times, and we just have to remember. I mean, we're doing Disneyland. We've got Disneyland planned.
Someday, when it opens. We don't know.
Yeah, and we're talking about trips right now because we're coming out of this, and so we've made promises to get back to a manageable place, but it's a constant battle.
I love the word seasons and just recognizing that there are ebbs and flows in everything. And I remember having the little kids and not having the babysitter, and everything was so hard. And you'll come out of it. It's a season. Everything is a season. I really love how you have intentionally put Christ at the center of your lives and in the things that you're creating in the world. So I have a question that's twofold. Number one, how do you keep Christ at the center of what you're creating in the world, even with your job and even in the theater? How do you keep Christ at the center? And then my follow-up to that question is, what are you most proud of that you've created and sent out into the world?
Go ahead.
Why do I go
Ladies
first all
first.
the time? Okay, so the first question was, say the first question again.
It's just keeping Christ at the center. How do you keep Christ?
Yeah, I think trying, for me, and especially in like performing and storytelling, because that's what my career is just, I think, remembering that it's not about me. It's about the people that I'm interacting with. It's about the people that I'm performing for. It's about them. And I think the second that we start getting into our own minds, or it's about me and it's about my roles and it's about me being a speaker and all of these things, I think we lose sight of Christ in our lives, because for Christ it wasn't about him, it was about us. And so for me, that's one way that I can continually strive to sort of emulate that, and just keeping in mind that the gifts and the passions and the need to be creative in my mind is a gift from Heavenly Father. Like, he has planted those inside of me, and it is my job to utilize those in the best way that I can for other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we made a commitment when I quit my job that there's a very sacred backstory behind quitting my job and having the support of the Lord through this process. And there was, you can call it a covenant that we made to God, that as I quit my job, that whenever he called, I would answer the call. And so, meaning, if we ever get called to do a fireside, if I'm called to go speak at a steak event, or if we don't get paid for that. And that's a lot of time. We do a ton of firesides. Mm-hmm. And that was
with the youth, church callings, just in any capacity.
Yeah, that we would always, when we are called or when we're asked, we go. We do that. And every time when a phone call happens and we go do a fireside, miracles happen. Every time. Mm-hmm. And we can both 100% testify that as putting Christ first and remembering that we are doing this to spread a message bigger than ourselves. Even when I speak about secularly, is all gospel. It has everything to do with Christ. It's all about advocacy. It's all about seeing what's possible. Like, it is his mission. I'm doing it in a secular way. But when he calls and asks me to go and do that for his kids, his gospel, his church, we're there. And that has transformed everything. Every ounce of success that we have received in our business, we can directly trace back to a time where we went and we served and we gave and we did a fireside and we spoke to kids and we used what he is using us to do and to become.
You put him at the center.
Always. We have to.
So using him at the center of your lives as inspiration and following and going when he calls, what is it that you are so proud of that you've created with his help?
I think, I mean, I have a little mantra in my life that we've tried to live, or I've tried to live in our business and in my family and just in life in general. And it says it's not about being the best in the world, it's about being the best for the world. And I think we can 100% look back and we can both say that we've strived to do that in everything that we're doing. We're trying to be better for people. We're trying to be better for Christ. I'm trying to be better for Kelly. I'm trying to be better for the world. And I feel like as much as we've struggled at times, at the end of all of this, we've done that. I've done that. I've tried to always do that. And striving for something that is significant, not just successful, something that matters, something that, I don't know, at the end of my life, I don't want to be surrounded by all the woulda, shoulda, couldas. I want to be surrounded by the do it, did it, done it's, specifically around how I did for other people. And we've been able to do that so far, which has been a blessing.
Yeah.
What about you, Kelly? What's something that you've created in the world with Christ that you're particularly proud of?
I'm really proud of my marriage. Honestly, like I'm really proud of us. I think that we've had a lot of really amazing things and really hard things, and I just feel really grateful that I have somebody like Clint who just continually pushes me to be better, but also kind of uplifts and empowers us as a whole to be better for those around us. So I would probably say choosing this guy.
Right.
Is that a fair answer? It's really
Absolutely.
cute.
We'll keep her on the payroll. We'll keep her on the payroll.
I love that. So our final question is, if you could give our audience one piece of advice about how to go and be in the world, what would that be?
I would say to just go and be yourself. I mean, I kind of touched on it before. Like, I think the Lord has placed very specific talents and desires and abilities in everybody, and they don't match. They're not the same for anybody else. And so I think just taking that and running with it, I think is the best thing that we can do to go and be, to help further the work in whatever way that looks like, you know?
Thank you. Clint?
I'd say one of the best ways to go and be is to realize that you still hold the pen to write a beautiful story. Like, life is magic, and we all have gifts and abilities to do some pretty amazing things. And when you realize that every day is a gift and that you get and I try not to be motivational. I try to favoid the fluffy stuff.
You can't help it.
But it really,
in you.
yeah, it's just, I don't know. And I mean, my heavens, I built a circus in my bedroom because I loved it. Like do the things that you love. Like, figure out what pulls on your heartstrings. Like, what do you? I mean, if you had 3 hours on a Saturday, like, what would you be doing? Try to do more of that. And figure out, if you're trying to make a living, or you're doing a business, or you're a provider, figure out how to provide and to play that role, right? To live as a responsible human being. And then third, contribute to your purpose in life. Mark Twain, the 2 important days in a person's life, the day you're born and then the day you figure out why. So go and be what that why is. Why are you here? What does the Lord want you to do? What innate gifts and talents do you have that allow you to write a better story for yourself, but also for other people? When you hit that mark in your life, that's when life just gets so fun, so purposeful, and you get to go and be something bigger than yourself. Go be that.
Clint and Kelly Pulver, thank you for joining us today on Go and Be. We hope that this has inspired you. We hope that you go into the world and be the best for the world. We hope you go into the world, use your gifts, talents, and abilities to bring light and goodness and your testimony of Jesus Christ to this earth. Whatever you do, just go and be.
Sweet salt. Consult Modest Clothing at Sequel Books.